Hi, everyone. My name is Stacey Adelman, and I'm a registered psychologist and founder of Joshua Tree Learning Center here in Regina, Saskatchewan. And so this Tuesday, I'm bringing you a new topic to talk about. And I thought something I really wanted to address was habits and habit change. And when working with individuals over the years, with kids and with teens and with adults, the topic usually comes up, about how do I create new habits or how do I extinguish or get rid of habits that I don't want to have anymore. So there's a great book out right now that is quite popular, and I picked it up myself. And it's this one here, Atomic Habits by James Clear. I'll make that more clear for you. Atomic Habits by James Clear. I loved this book, absolutely loved this book. And I think it's got really nice practical advice about creating changes in our habits. And James Clear really breaks it down into 10 essential steps or 10 things we have to look at if we're trying to change the habits for ourselves. Now, one of the things I particularly love about this book is because it actually makes habit change doable. And the research clearly shows that doing small steps consistently is what is going to create lasting change and more remarkable or significant outcomes. So, a lot of times, we think we have to make really major changes in our lives to create these changes. And really, it's not. When we can keep our steps really small and really simple, but we do them really consistently, we can create a lot of positive changes in our lives. And so I really love this because it just feels a lot more doable. And I'd really encourage you to take a look at this book because there's a lot of really great practical advice in it. So essentially, that's the number one. Think of something really, really small. So, for example, I'm somebody who really enjoys running. And many years ago, I would run marathons. I ran a marathon, and I did several, half marathons, or I did longer distance running. And then I fell off of that for a while. And then trying to start back again was kind of in my head that I had to do it at this caliber, this level again. And after reading this, it's like, no, I don't. I can just start simply and just create the habit of running again. So I just started simple with 15 minutes a day. Didn't matter how fast, it didn't matter what incline on the treadmill, nothing like that. It was just strictly building the habit of running. And so, for 15 minutes a day, every single day, right? And so that's just an example of how taking some change that I wanted to create, really scaling it down and making it a lot more doable. Secondly, James Clear really talks about the habit loop. So he really talks about when you understand these components and you really manipulate them and use them, you can really create really great lasting habit change for yourself. So the habit loop really talks about, well, what's the cue to the habit, or what is the craving, what is the response, and then what is the reward. And so really setting yourself up for success. The other shift that James makes that I think is particularly important, he talks a lot about changing identity, that when we focus solely on the behavior itself, we aren't going to have as much success. What we have to do is we have to change the way we see ourselves. We have to change the identity we have for ourselves. So if I'm going to go back to my example of running every day, I have to create the identity that I am a runner. I am somebody who is physically fit. I am somebody that values fitness. I am a health nut. So we have to change how we see ourselves before we can change the habit. He talks a lot about habit stacking. So focus more on what you already do well. So if there's a habit that you already have, build on that, right? So if I'm creating the habit of running, or maybe if I'm already have the habit of walking, maybe I can add in 5 minutes of running, right? So it's just look at the habits you already have and build on them. We call that habit stacking, right? So making the habit of making your bed every morning, and then while I'm making the bed, I can also focus on cleaning off the dresser, right? So you're always just adding one little component or just taking it a little step further, right, to increase the habits that you're building. So build on something that you're already doing. He talks a lot about environment design, right? So setting your environment up for success. So when I get up in the morning and I want to go for a run, I'm not thinking very clearly in the morning. It really helps if I have my exercise clothes laid out the night before. I don't have to go looking for them. I've created an environment for success. I'm not someone who likes to get up and drive somewhere to go exercise. I like to just have the treadmill available to me where I can just go downstairs. I don't have to worry about running into anybody I know. I can just put on my old exercise clothes and go. So the environment is already set up for me. Maybe my workout clothes are ready, the treadmill is ready, the podcast is queued, and I'm ready to go. So we set ourselves up for success. The next thing that's really important is you really need to track your progress. And this is super important just from a motivational standpoint. Track what you're doing and see your progress over time. The mind and the brain likes to be able to, it sees things different, it perceives the world differently when it sees it in the written word or in a chart or a picture or some kind of way that you are tracking your change over time. And then James Clear also talks about what he calls it, this fancy term, the plateau of latent potential. But it's essentially that you might not see results right away, right? So small improvements, they can be hard to see right away, but over the long term, you're really going to see remarkable results. So sometimes, that can be difficult because we live in a society where we want to see results now. You might not see it right away, but stick with it. It's kind of like that money and the compound interest, right? It builds over time and you are going to get remarkable results if you just stick with small habits done consistently. James Clear also talks about the 4 laws of behavior change. So what are things we really need to think of? We need to make it really obvious. We need to make it attractive. We need to make it easy, and we need to make it satisfying. So try to think of those 4 things. How is it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying? And when you implement those 4 components, you are going to have much better results. Okay, so we've been talking about creating good habits, but also now how do we reverse habits, or how do we change things or get rid of the habits we don't really want anymore? Well, the first thing we need to do is we have to identify what our trigger is. Okay. More often than not, if we're engaging in a habit or an undesirable habit, usually the trigger is related to stress. For example, there's many others. That just tends to be a common one, is stress. So identifying that stress and then identifying the craving. What is your response? And then what is your reward? Because we are engaging in a habit because we are getting something out of it. We're getting a reward, even though we may not like that reward or want that reward or think we're choosing that reward. We're getting something out of it. So we have to be able to identify what each of those are: triggers, cravings, responses, and rewards. And that is going to give us really good information about how we need to intercede the loop and break the habit. And finally, what we really need is continuous improvement. So our habits are constantly being refined over time. We never have it all figured out. We are always working on ourselves. We're always, trying to improve things, change things. So just always consider it a work in progress. And if things don't go so well, get back on track the next day and start again. It's never a loss. It's only learning, and we are constantly evolving and learning each and every day. So I hope this helps a little bit with trying to implement some of those new habits. I really encourage you again. I'll show you this book, Atomic Habits. You can pick it up, Amazon or Chapters. Really popular book right now, and getting quite a bit of attention. So take a look at it, and good luck with you on your new Atomic Habits coming up this spring. Take care, everyone, and we'll talk with you again next week.